Welcome back, everyone, for our next incredible show. I'm once again joined by my intrepid co host, Debbie. Debbie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm just so excited to be back. And hello to everybody, and I'm looking forward to another great show.
And me too. We had such a really special show yesterday talking about the crystal skulls. And I've been looking at the chat comments as well as the comments that have been in the League of Consciousness Explorers. This has just been a special, special show for a lot of people.
Oh, that's really good to hear because it's such an amazing subject, the crystal skulls.
Yeah, they go back eons and eons and eons. So, what was it about yesterday's show that tickled your fancy?
Well, there was quite a few things that really did, but the fact that you expanded on the crystal skulls and what they do is what really got my attention. Mm-hmm. And another thing I wanted to ask you, Andrew, is what else can we do with the crystal skulls? There's only certain things that I've been able to do with Himshi, but there's got to be a lot more.
You described about a process where the crystal skulls were getting downloaded and then taken to an area.
Right.
That is the mechanics of bringing energy to a place. When one carves a crystal skull, that makes you a practitioner and creator and manifester. When you have a crystal skull that has been gone through that process and you are determining if you want to be companioned with that, there can be several hundred others that could have a crystal skull, or a group of 5 or 6 that can come together and place their crystal skulls in places of power for extended periods of time, while multiple people go and service those particular areas where the crystal skulls reside. You may have one person that comes there and sees a red crystal skull that belong to one person, or so on and so forth. And one day a person may come and take that red crystal skull and bring it to another sacred space. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, that person will bring back another crystal skull to replace it. It is just like sending files back and forth between people. There needs to be that physical aspect for that skull to go from point A to point B, because that journey is changing the 1 degree of separation of everything that is about to be of that future download.
That's really interesting. I know of another lady who has got a group of friends who've got crystal skulls, and anytime there's something like the BP spill in Florida there, they all get together and use their crystal skulls to send energy to try and stop anything bad from happening.
Absolutely. I have been approached a while ago about people that wanted to do a crystal skull bank, where we would get crystal skulls that are about half the size or a quarter the size of Himshi, and we would mass produce them and keep them in a particular area, and then boxes of them would be sent to an area that has a natural disaster, and they can be given out to practitioners that were there that they could go and bury them.
Oh, right.
And then the original box would then return to the bank, and more crystals would be put into it, and that is that emergency service shamanic box. As well as making a crystal skull scenario where people can send them to the bank to get that downloaded protection, where tens of thousands of other crystal skulls reside in sacred space.
That's a really fascinating project.
Mm-hmm. It's a spiritual bank, a crystalline bank. Think of the seed banks that try to save the world. The same thing can be applied to the crystal skulls. The 13 that are in our history are the infinite creations of each little one. Are they a machination, an incarnation, a different version, an expression, a filter of it? They're whatever you need them to be, because they're still linked into all moments of history. There's still a sentience there that helps us co-create sovereignty, divine self-beings.
Well, that'd be really such a great something great for the world to have, because at this time especially there's so much happening in the world that would be a great project to get into practice.
That is something that I have been discussing with some people at the League of Consciousness Explorers, that we were going to put the crystal bank together. With the upcoming changes that our world is going to be going through, not the physical ones, the mental and spiritual ones, having a sacred space and practitioners that keep that place clean to receive other crystals that can be brought there and nurtured and then sent back. Here in Yelm, there are sacred groves of trees that are everywhere that are being threatened by Weyerhaeuser.
Right.
And this goes all over the country. It's not just Weyerhaeuser, and just not Yelm and Pacific Northwest. If we can get people out into the woods and to find those sacred groves and bring these boxes of crystals there to those sacred groves and then return them to the bank before those groves are destroyed, we can spread that energy to the world.
That's a really wonderful concept.
And that is something the skulls are perfectly aligned with.
Oh.
Because we do it in neutrality to make sure the spark of the grove survives before it's destroyed.
Yeah, because it's so sad to see all these groves of trees and forests being destroyed all over the world.
Absolutely. It's just destructive. And we don't need destructive. We just need peace,
yes,
harmony, unity, respect. All of those things the crystal skulls already have in them as their base consciousness.
I think there's so many people out there just wanting to know what they can do, and there's so many people like in the Greenpeace, in all those different organisations that try to save the ecology and the planet. It'd be wonderful if they could have that sort of knowledge that they could all work with, because there's lots of people who are involved wanting to do something, just not knowing what to do.
Correct. And another thing is those people that are protecting the whales in the ocean with the boats that are stopping the whaling ships.
Right.
We could put crystal skulls in those boats. Why? Because we are protecting sentient kind. We just have to realize that there's a fine line between being a zealot and a fine line between being a protector.
Right.
And that's what having a crystal skull on the boat can help those people that are trying to save those beautiful, beautiful creatures of the ocean. As well as those crystal skulls can bear witness to the DNA memories of what is going on in that scenario. And then when those crystal skulls come back to the bank, they upload all everything else in that bank with everything that it's had.
Right, so you can imagine if that got spread out, and then you could take those crystal skulls that have all been downloaded with that extra knowledge and taken back out into the world to other places to be able to even, do better.
We could go out and purchase 1,000 crystal skulls and ask that travelers this year take them with them and then return them to the bank.
Right.
All of those things are possible. All of those things, it just takes your spark of, I can do it. Money is not about spending. It's about understanding what you can do with it. Does it need to even be a crystal skull? No. But when you use this imagery, when you use this thought, when you use what a crystal skull brings with the power of myth, then you have the great power of what you can do with it.
Right, so it's an actually great tool for humanity to use.
Absolutely.
So I wonder why they even appeared here in the first place.
To filter out the false memories,
right,
so that people could have an anchor in real time and not fraud time. And if they still wanted to live in fraud time in the dream world, they could. And those skulls would not violate their sovereignty, knowing that everything was resolving karma. And even the skulls are involved in karma in their shade expression, because a crystal takes light and separates it into a prism, so that all experiences of the prism are experienced separately, and then the conscious comes in and absorbs them all simultaneously.
Right. So it's so expansive in its duties there.
So when you've seen other people with crystal skulls, what you've seen the big ones like Starman. What's your favorite one?
I think Jogs.
Jogs?
Yeah, I really like Jogs, but Starman I really am attached to. Yeah.
Max for me has been the special one that stuck out many, many, many times.
He's very powerful.
Oh, is he powerful?
Yes. I actually didn't go into the presence of Max. She was downloaded from Starman, who had spent several hours downloading from Max. And so it really would be wonderful to actually experience being in its presence.
So when did you start bringing crystal skulls into your practice life, where you're doing past life regressions on people?
Actually, as soon as I came back from England.
As soon as you came back from England, you just began incorporating it? What was it like setting up your special little office that you have?
Well, Andrew, I had done some past life regressions in somebody else's office, and I decided I needed my own space, so where I could set up my own energy, my own protective field there, and privacy. So I actually built a separate studio in cedar wood, because I wanted natural timbers, and created a sacred space so that I could set up the energy's there. And it's been wonderful because the tools that you showed me how to make
That we created many months ago, yes.
Yes, they've been absolutely amazing for me. I don't know how I ever did the work without them, because especially the disentangling tool that we made, I've had people in there come in with such heavy entities attached to them that the disentangling tool did not allow them to stay in my space. But I always smudge my space. I always cleanse, and I always have my tools. And Himshi is a really great guard in there.
Yeah, he's like a special guard dog.
Yes, he's a real sentinel.
So I also understand we made a clarity tool for you too, and that was specific to work with your clients, wasn't it?
And that works perfectly because sometimes when people are going through different aspects, I have no problem keeping clear. I found that actually the clarity has even been stronger since I've had that tool.
And that was the point building. I remember building it with you, and later on your husband came by too and was just absolutely fascinated with what we were doing. And those were some really, really special tools that we built. For people that don't know about it, essentially what we did is we had beeswax and crystals and laid them in a specific order, like I've shown in other videos. And Debbie now uses these in her practice. And the disentangling tool, I remember making that tool with you, and the shield tool also,
Yes,
which was really a special tool.
That's powerful. And I know you told me that I needed to be with that for, 9 days?
9 days. Yeah,
Yes.
you just needed to bond with it. It was
I had
important.
to bond. Yes, so I took it to work with me. I took it in my car everywhere I went. James attached himself to the other one that you made that had more Incan energies to it. He sleeps with it.
It's because it was designed for that. It was
Yes.
designed to bring him to balance, or bring whoever's using it to zero balance, so that they could have peace.
Yes, and he just loves it. And but the power tool for me, and you said that once that we had that attachment, and the energy field of that goes for 9 miles. So it's wonderful being on a 5-acre property and having that whole thing protected.
That whole thing protected.
Yes. Yeah, it's really powerful.
What was it like when you first had the tools in your office and you had your first client in there?
I was very aware of them.
Very aware.
Yes, really interesting. And the interesting thing about it too was that I had someone who came in with a major problem. And they cleared it so quickly that it just blew my mind.
Just blew your mind at how fast and how easy they blew through it.
Yes, yes. Because the disentangling allowed them also to disentangle.
Yeah. Let's talk disentangling for a second.
Okay.
What did it bring to you?
It brought me a sense of safety, but also a sense of relief, but that I didn't have to worry about going and doing heavy cleansing after it, because some of the clients came in with some very heavy baggage, and I used to have to go and work on myself with water and fire to clear myself. But I find that sometimes I wondered whether they were still hanging around. Because I sensed sometimes that those energies followed me. So having the disentangling tool was fantastic, because ever since I've had that, I've had no problems about feeling any energy hanging around.
And that was its whole purpose.
Right.
And when there are people out there that are going to ask, well, where are you going to be able to get those? Once the Alchemy series gets up and out, and you will be able to see the creation of some really, really big ones, similar to what Debbie is talking about that she uses with her place. And the word disentanglement, it goes so far into this world that we live in. It's just a word that has its own energy behind it. And when you work with something that is a powerful crystal, and you grow a community, and you have something that's really special, it's like 100-foot ancient oak tree compressed in something that's a 4-pound piece of beeswax with crystals in it, and it does so much work. It brings so much energy to that area, and it brings the impressions of the creation. During the creation, we read the contract revocations to all of them when they were drying. We made sure it was a clean ceremonial environment, and that no one would be giving away power to the tool, and the tool wouldn't be giving away power back to you.
Right.
And you made sure that the tool understood that you were sharing this experience of being a practitioner, of being a wife, of being a human being, so that you can find pure disentanglement when you needed it.
Yes, and when I walk away from my studio, I forget all about it. I can go back in, be the wife, live my life, go to work, because I do some other part-time work, and I don't feel any entanglement with that.
With any of them.
Yes.
Do you use them to meditate with?
I use my power.
Your power tool?
Yes.
Okay. What's it like when you're using that?
It's really powerful too, and I just find that I can go deeper.
You go a lot deeper.
Yes, yes.
Do you just hold it on your lap? What do you do with it?
Originally I did, but I don't have the need to do that anymore. I just have it in my room.
You can just hold your hand towards it and
Yes.
feel its warmth because you've bonded to it at such a higher level.
Yes, and when I hold my hand over it, I can really feel the power emanating from it.
I remember we put quite a bit of magnets in those.
Oh, it was amazing too. It was very powerful.
So what kind of experiences have you seen as a practitioner that people have had in your chair? I mean, what kind of amazing experiences can you share? People know me, and I have shared some experience, but when I bring people on, it's so that they can understand that there's hundreds of people out there that are having special skills where they might remote view or they might be witnessing themselves in their own memories.
Right.
What kind of things have you seen?
I actually had one lady who came in and she was very concerned because she had a growth in her uterus, the size of a cantaloupe. And she was concerned, even though she had a procedure that's supposed to help it shrink, she was very concerned that what caused it in the first place, because there's usually always a thought or a something
Frequency, something
Yes.
there that's whether it's in the blood, in the DNA, in the ancestral karma, or just something you've taken on as a debt from someone else.
Exactly. And so so I regressed her because I don't always just do past life. I always go to the root cause. So it could be this life, pre-birth, or past life. So she went back to when I regressed her, and I asked her to actually talk with the consciousness of that growth and why it grew there. What came out of that was that she's got a family that she's got an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old that's still living at home, and a husband, and they all want so much from her. She just overextended herself, and they got into the habit of just getting her to do everything for them, and she never did much for herself. And so when this growth came, the family had to stand back and start nurturing her because they were worried that she might have had cancer, whatever it was. So she got
Forced love.
Yes. So this was a protection for her to take stock of herself and her life, and it gave her time to reflect and have the understanding that she needs to love herself enough to let them know that she loves them, but she has to also receive love, and she also needs to have assistance with her life and to have space for herself and time to nurture herself. So after we did the clearing with that, and she got the understanding, she actually saw in her mind's eye the energy of that leaving her body, and that went down and healed very quickly.
Wonderful. That's really, really, really cool when you see experiences like that.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And what kind of anything else that you can share with people? I mean, now you've regressed me, and for people that don't realize that, we are going to be sharing part of that regression. I made a very conscious active choice of saying, well, you know, I do this all live. You're always me. Well, here's a sample. What you can see when someone's regressed someone like me. What was it like when you regressed me?
Do you know, it was a wonderful experience, Andrew, because you're always in that space. You can tune into that higher aspect of your mind anyway and read the Akashic records like no one have ever seen. And I was a bit, nervous at first because I'm thinking, well, you've already got those abilities. How's it going to go when I take you down and put you into a relaxed state? Because you are connected always to your subconscious pretty well. But when you let go, because it's harder to do it for yourself, and I realise that because I try to regress myself.
It's hard.
It is hard.
It's hard.
Because I get myself where I'm into my subconscious mind, connecting to my conscious mind, and then I have to step out of my subconscious and ask the question so my subconscious can answer it. So I was flipping myself in and out, and it's just too hard.
It's just too hard, exactly.
Yes. So I recognised that would probably be the same for you, So it was a really wonderful honour to actually take you back.
And it was an honor to have you there because you held incredible space. Because even me, there are times that you had to wave out and clear energy just because that was the nature of what was going on in the memories that were coming through.
Yes.
Or in the forward life. So people haven't realized she did. Well, there was a scenario she took me into a past life, but there's the next time what we're going to be sharing with you shortly is we went to the future.
That was amazing.
That was special.
You wait till you all hear that, folks, because you're going to just blow your socks off with that
Blow
one.
your socks off. We made a very conscious effort choice to before I regressed into the future to determine what we were going to look at. And we decided to look at some very firm dates, December 21st, 2015, and then 2016, 2017, revolving around the December 21st or the May dates,
Yes.
all the way to 2020.
I was going to actually ask the June, but, when I'm in that space,
You just have an instinct.
and it came out so strong, ask May, May 2015, and May 2016.
So you were doing what's called a clairsentience ability, where you tapped into your empathic nature at the soul level and could just impress and understand from the impressions that were coming to you that impress of this is the time frame that you need. This is something big for that soul that's in that future right now.
Right. Yes, and I get very, very connected intuitively when a person's going through. But I also have to hold space, and that's what I like about him, because he also holds space. But there was times because where we went in the future, there's beings there that felt rattled, I felt.
Very rattled.
Yes.
That he was there now.
That you were peeking into, especially the domination and control would feel very, very threatened, because especially what we were seeing. And so I had to really step up the energy, and there was times where I had to actually hold my hands up and throw energy out to back them off so that we could continue on without any interruption. It was a very, very powerful process.
Yeah, it was. And it was very healing for me, too. At the end, I remember coming out of the regression going, wow, I have new DNA memories. I have a whole new understanding.
Wow.
From that perspective of being
Yes.
in the future, because everything is malleable there. Everything's a dream.
Yes.
But a dream can be manifested into reality instantly. And when you're that future and you come back here, you can do it.
Yes.
And now it's the action of follow through.
Right.
Because you've made something from unpredictable future to something that is now not just malleable, but solidified.
Right. And I did something I'd never done before, and that was take two people down at once. And it was Natalie and you that it took you down
that
together.
was special. Yes, that was really, really, really special.
Yeah. I just thought, well, it came to me while I was driving over to do the process that I needed to do both of you together. It would be more powerful.
And it was very powerful.
Yeah.
And we are editing that so that we can bring it to you. Hopefully we're going to have part of that edited by our special Super Bowl Sunday show.
Yeah.
It's the alternative service. So if you guys do not want to watch the Super Bowl this coming Sunday at 3:30 Pacific time, we're going to be having a very, very special show where what we're going to be doing is talking about remote viewing, clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance, and how all of these skills can be used to look at the present, the future, or the past. And during the show, you're going to have 3 options to try to remote view 3 targets. One of the targets is the final score of the Super Bowl. The other 2 targets will be yet unnamed, but I will be holding them in envelopes during the show. And you'll get to make a choice of what you want to try to remote view. This show, I will talk all about what these skills are, and I will empower that object for people to see with clarity. And it's going to be special. But something I want people to remember is when you have a practitioner help you go through a skill, you are actually experiencing hundreds of different psychic skills while you're under. And being under can keep you in an experience that is real.
Right.
And when we come out of it, we can use advanced shows like what I'm doing to show people that they can use those skills when they're not under.
Yes.
Yeah? I mean, I know you've seen people just be super, super psychic when they're under, and as soon as they're out, they're back to being 3D with no awareness.
Exactly. I have. And the great thing about remote viewing, because I love doing remote viewing myself, but I haven't practiced it for quite a while, so I'm really excited about Sunday.
What was your first experience with remote viewing? Did you get it right away? Did you understand the concepts of it?
I attended a lecture where a guy from the military, trying to remember his name now, he did a
Ed
presentation.
Dames?
Yes, Ed Dames.
Interesting teacher.
Yes, and he did a whole thing, and that really sparked my interest. So I went home and practiced, and then I was involved in a mystery school at the time, and they were starting to do remote viewing, and so they would hold up a box with something in it, and I just really surrendered, and I nearly got it every time.
Every time.
Yeah, and there was one that was really amazing because they come up with this box one time, and I'm looking, remote viewing, and all I saw was this. It was very hard to describe. So there's a lady beside me, and I said, I'm just going to draw what I saw, and I'm just doing this round squiggle, round and round, messy looking thing, and I said, it looks like it's got a bow tie or some wings on it or something. Ended up being a bird's nest with a little fake bird on it.
But then your mind, that's all you can see.
My mind was like, I must be seeing something crazy here, Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we're giving people 3 options. One of the options, the Super Bowl, is probably going to be considered the hardest, technically. But the other 2, you have to figure out through the envelope of how to bring it into English, into typewritten form. So we are giving people the challenge of the skill, but also I will be empowering the objects to be clearly, openly read and protected through a ceremonial expression, that the envelopes will be the cleanest energy that's ever out there so that people can tune into them.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Okay? And we're going to be regularly doing this over the next couple of weeks, where we're going to get a regular crowd that we're going to give envelopes out to during a certain time of the show, and there'll be a time where you can open the comments up and close them, and we're going to assemble a big group of people that are going to look at some of the more advanced ways of using remote viewing to not just view envelopes, but to remote view an area and begin to heal an area.
That would be powerful.
See, as the Akashic Records, I can anchor myself in time. And let's say I go 9,000 years in the past on the Sinai Peninsula, and I'm holding up a big torch.
Right.
Okay? That's what people are going to be remote viewing. And then they can go to that point in history, fraud history, and look out.
And see that.
And still be protected in this time because they're viewing through my field of stream of information.
Right, so you're setting up that protective field.
I'm setting up the protective network in the streams of information, and it is their own photonic light skill to take that information, its protected format, and translate it into their own English without entangling directly with it.
And imagine, when they boost up these skills, what they can do in their own lives. With that, whether they can remote view, and even with family members, if they're worried about them who are away at certain areas and whatever, they can remote view and see if they're okay.
Remote sense, if you don't want to be obtrusive. It's just, yes, you're doing good.
Yes.
You're not in a car accident. I've alleviated my own thoughts.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yes.
Or, that's my grandmother. I know she's ill. I'm gonna tune in and give her some energy, some healing energy.
Right. Or if you've got say you're going for a job interview in a few days' time, you could set up your own energy, send it forward in there, and set up an energy where you feel when you walk into your own energy, you're more powered.
When you sit down in that chair
yes.
to have that interview, that your heart takes in all of that energy and relaxes and stops beating fast.
Yes.
Allows you to breathe normally, for your skin to be flushed the right color.
Right. And you're stepping into your own energy.
Stepping into your own energy.
Yes.
And it's just your words you're projecting forward. As long as you can imagine what clothes you're going to be wearing in that interview, in a chair, in an office scenario, even if the office scenario is totally different from what you walk in, it's your frequency that's going to be meeting that unknown job.
Right.
And you're not going to influence the person.
No.
Just yourself.
Yes. You're just setting up your own energy in there, so you're not walking into their energy and feeling disempowered.
Correct.
Yes.
I tell people that are the Reiki 2 practitioners that have learned that skill of sending treatments forward in time. That is just one example. There are many other healing modalities out there that do something similar.
Right.
But when you set yourself a schedule, let's say 1 day a week I give myself 2 hours continuous where I send treatments forward in time to myself. Let's say I know I'm going to be receiving my paycheck on Friday, and I know that I spend too much money. I'm going to send a treatment forward to myself to be balanced with that paycheck.
That's perfect.
Okay, that's one challenge. Let's say you're a healer and you know you're going to be having, let's say, some sick patients come. You're going to send a treatment to yourself just before you treat your next sick patient. Why? Because you may be overworked and not realize how much that patient really needs.
Exactly.
And you are guaranteeing that you are not crossing a boundary and using your own energy to heal that patient.
Because I notice too, when I've done some healing work, I'll run my own energy and I feel drained. So instead of allowing source to flow through you, and you tend to sometimes run
Use
your own.
Run your own source.
Yes.
And then you get drained even more. And it can be tough to get that energy back.
Yes.
But when you can view yourself, past, present, or future, you can really tone your energy to such a point. It's like having a rough wall that's sanded down to completely flat, and everything is that smooth energy.
Right. So that would work really well. So that's really good for practitioners out there to know and work with.
So what is your feeling about empathy when people just sense emotions? I mean, that's one of the first psychic experiences people have growing up is, I know what you're feeling.
Yes. So I'm just wondering, with empathy, does your emotions get caught up with that person?
Absolutely. Because your belief systems are intertwined with empathy.
Right.
Because empathy is your peripheral sight in metaphor that is all 5 senses that gets a blink on, blink off. Blink on, blink off. Think of the submarine sonar. Boom. Some people are boom, 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 boom all the time, and other people are really passive and just out of very less boom.
Right.
But are very tuned, and that boom goes miles. And they've refined that skill. And then there are others that use clairaudience to a point where that single boom is interacting with, let's say, 1,000 people.
Right.
And then they get overwhelmed. Okay? We must be aware that empathy is one of the greatest skills domination and control has used against us because we live in dirty energy underwear environments.
You know, I realised years ago that I had too much empathy, because when a person that I didn't even know, I started this new job, and this girl was confiding in me at a lunch break about some sad thing that was going on in her life, and she started crying. I just had tears pouring down my face, and all of a sudden she looked at me and she's going, I can't believe you're crying. You don't even know me.
Because she couldn't cry, and you picked it up, and you cried for her.
Right. And I just thought, gee, I'm just too sensitive, and I need to really get a grip on it.
No, that's that person enforcing codependency on you, because they were a very powerful empath and needed to take the energy they had taken from others and refocus it onto you.
Oh, that's interesting.
See? That's the abusive side of empathy in the dirty energy environment. Because you get so toxic with energy, you have to give it to something else.
Right. And so I got it.
And so you got it in that scenario.
Right.
Okay.
Oh.
Now, sympathy and empathy, we have a parasympathetic body.
Yes.
There are times where we are so empathic, our sympathy, our parasympathetic body takes on the energy of what you're interacting with empathically. And when one is remote viewing and trying to remain clear and observe, your body, your parasympathetic body, can be exposed to some form of polarity energy if you don't keep the skill separate.
Right.
Okay?
So that's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're remote viewing, remote view. Until you get to the point where you can use 1 or 2 or 3 skills simultaneously and realize that the body is still the medium for all these experiences.
So you basically try not to get emotionally entangled with what you're remote viewing.
Exactly.
Just be the observer.
Be the observer.
Right.
Neutral observer.
Okay.
Be as neutral as possible.
Yeah, because the only things I've ever remote viewed were just items.
That's the easy way to start.
Yes, not situations.
Okay?
Yeah.
Psychometry is also a form of remote viewing. Okay? Well, that's not remote. Psychometry is when you hold an object and you can tell who else has held it. Remote viewing is the same thing. It's just using it at a point in time space. Okay? And objects can be full of energy. And sometimes created in such full energy, when a remote viewer goes back to look at it, a light bomb goes off and can literally blind them on some of their psychic skills.
Oh.
Or lure them down a dangerous, dangerous path of mind trails.
So what do you suggest you do to stop that?
You have to remember that when you're using any remote sensing viewing skill, that it's your photonic light body, that it's not your dreaming body, it's not an out-of-body experience, there is not a thread, all that it is. And whether it's in time or no time doesn't really matter. It's just a frequency of energy in which you do something. So if it gets entangled over there and it tries to return to you, that each stage that you go through when returning energies are going to you, that you've done the spiritual cleanliness process, which is protecting the four corners of your property. So the furthest energies that reach you go, all right, I'm in polarity or not. And if you're not in polarity, you go to the next stage, which is inside your bathroom, your living room, your kitchen, those places where you regularly live, and then to your bed.
Right.
So what can make it to your dream world that is your natural energy, that isn't stuck in polarity or going to bring you down a mind trail back into the shadow of the self?
Right. So it'd be really important to do the protocol then of all your cleansing, even smudging.
Smudging, muscle testing. I mean, I can't tell people how much that muscle testing, if they learn to do it on their own and really get good at it, can teach you absolutely everything you want to know about the oracle of the self.
Right.
Okay?
Yes, because mind has definitely got its own consciousness.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
The
body-
subconscious has its own consciousness
it
too.
does. Every cell has its own consciousness. It's really amazing. I noticed that years ago I did a course in shiatsu acupressure. And the acupuncturist there who was teaching us, he was a professor in acupuncture, he was relaying to us how, and I was unaware that there was cellular memory at the time, and this is going right back in the early 80s.
When people were really trying to figure it out, and it was really changing the minds of a lot of people.
Yes, and he was saying that, you know, in his practice, when he put needles in certain areas on people, they spontaneously started crying or screaming, and it brought back a memory of something that happened to them in their childhood, or one was where a woman had been raped and she actually thought it was still happening to her because the memory came back so strong that he almost got accused of being the person that did it. So he said, so when you're working with people's energies, and just be careful because cells hold these different memories.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
When I wrote the contract revocations, I knew that cellular memories hold it. So I put word phrases together that would trigger that.
Great.
Trigger that to people. And as you know, there are people that try to read them and literally stumble over the simplest words because their intuition knows what's coming next.
Well, I know when I was doing it with you, Andrew, I was choking almost. I couldn't get some of the words out, and then the tears came.
Tears came, exactly.
And it was on the banking one. I'm thinking,
exactly.
I'm thinking, what the heck? I thought I might do that during the Divine Feminine.
Yeah, but no, I'm banking. Exactly.
I thought, have I got an issue around money, or what is this?
It was the hierarchical order of what they did to everyone, and the part of you that was in the hierarchical order for that part of the experience that did it to everyone else.
Right.
Okay? We've all done everything. Okay?
Yes, we have.
You've been the prince, you've been the pauper, you've been the princess, you've been the world domination control, you've been the healer, you've been the angel, you've been all of it.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
And when we get over it, through allowing that emotion, through the triggering of the parasympathetic body to go, why did I just tear over the banking revocation?
I did. I tell you, that worried me for a bit.
I remember another person, a gentleman, and a fabulous reader. You know, is the kind of person that reads, 3-4 books a week. And so I put the 5 contract revocations in front of him, and he goes to read the first one, and he starts stumbling over his words. And his wife looks at him and goes, are you all right? And he's like, I just literally, he couldn't enunciate. Hierarchical order was hierarch. Patriarch, he couldn't do patriarch.
Wow.
Again, and this is a person that reads all the time. And he's like, why is this happening? I'm like, because so much of your intuition knows what comes next. Where you're going to break all contracts, vows, and agreements with your entire citizenship and all forms of banking representation, all forms of government, religious monarchies. That means all the other decisions your shadow selves made are suddenly in question, and they're now looking back at you going, no. You can't fall out of domination and control. with your sovereignty. No, no one's allowed to have sovereignty. And that's where those words just won't work.
So that's huge, isn't it? When those revocations are just so powerful. I found that just not even reading them once, 2 or 3 times, I find regularly that I pick out 1 or 2 every week that I keep going over, and I'm finding more on the blog, which is just amazing.
One of the ones we're going to be introducing is the one for the pharmaceutical industry. There has been a very, very special lady that ended up having stage 4 cancer, and she saw my contract revocations. They did wonders for her, and then she made one specifically for her in the scenario that she was going through with the pharmacopoeia industry. And we're going to be featuring this new contract revocation for the pharmacopoeia industry here in the next couple weeks. And there are a couple of more that I'm going to be introducing. One that's going to be clearing the entire strategy of energetic chess that's going around you. And this is something that you'll be using during the big high points, during full moons and solstices and equinox. Because that is when the system of domination control is going to try to do its biggest chess move to you. You know, the queen's going to be coming after you, or the knight or the bishop or the rook's going to be coming.
What about the horse revocation?
Oh, that was such a powerful revocation when we wrote it, because we were in such deep ceremony. And then when we finally refined the last little part of it, that one, there are people that just burst into tears from looking at equine revocation. And as soon as they go equine star nation relations, they're in that frequency of tears. Because they've been the horse that's been in the stable, that's been abused, that has a slave human next to him who's just as abused. And they've interchanged lifetimes. They've shared each other. They were forced into reincarnation together. And now as a sentient DNA species, there'll be those that want to be a horse, those that want to be a human, or those that want to be hybrids, because it's such a natural part of their other existences.
Oh. That's really a powerful thing to do then, isn't it?
That's the shape-shifting side that we get to come back into understanding with. That before domination and control took our DNA and made it the way it is now, we were shapeshifters. And any being, any sentient being that wanted to come into Earth and be a shapeshifter went through the extinction wars.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because I've always felt, gee, I'd love to be a shapeshifter, because I was reading some stuff, material on it, and I just thought, wouldn't that be fantastic to be able to shift and shape?
Oh, absolutely. It is our birthright. But it has been removed from our DNA awareness for so many millions of years that we need regular practitioners to become adepts, to become masters, who then can show it in a reality that says, no, it isn't real.
Right.
Okay? I read the Akashic Record. I have met a shapeshifter. I have met a person that can change his shape. I have met a person that can use telekinesis and lift my laptop 8 feet in the air and hold it there and smoke a cigarette and fall asleep and it won't fall. I've seen people do things with light skills, make their bodies luminous. I've seen the ships come down out of nowhere.
That would have
Why
been,
don't we have
Yeah.
another shapeshifter on TV? Because that right there means the reality cracks at the highest level.
Yes,
These are just words. But words that have a frequency connection to them of the infinite.
Right.
But when your visual cortex is challenged at that level, what does that mean for your own parasympathetic reaction?
It would change the world.
That's right.
Yes.
Change the world. Think of the movie The X-Men, where the blue lady just changes form from one to the other to the other. And imagine if there was a viral video that shows a 15-year-old kid that just changes his facial structures. You know, his nose is bigger, his forehead's bigger. And just by a few seconds of just shaking his head around, or just putting his hand on his own face, and all of a sudden he can change his shape. Elongate his fingers, and then take a deep breath and just bring them all back to normal.
That would show people that they could actually do that. That's a reality that they could actually work on, and it's a possibility that, you know, can be done in this 3D reality.
And then there
That
would
would
be
wake
people,
people up.
that would be people like that have amputees. Why can't I get my arm back?
Do you know, I know of somebody whose uncle had a thyroid cancer, a growth on his thyroid, and they cut it out, and he grew a new one.
Grew a new one. Yes.
And he grew another tumor on it, and they cut it out, and he grew another one. And I said to this friend of mine, you know, he really needs to go back and see what thought it is that keeps creating this tumor to go on there, because it's a message for him to look at.
So this has been a really, really fun show, and Debbie, you're going to be regularly on the show. You're going to be in the league Q&A. Thank you for coming on, and this Sunday, everyone, remember 3:30 Pacific Time, Super Bowl Sunday remote viewing special, and we're going to be talking all about the special skills, and this is going to be really fun. Thanks a lot, everyone. Debbie, thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been a pleasure.
All right, take it easy, everyone.